Relax? Of course. I love relaxing too, though I can't quite remember the last time I did. Maybe somewhere between the grease soaking through my KFC uniform and the ache in my fingers that no ointment seems to fix anymore. But sure, if my footsteps irritate you, let me take one final step to the lawyer. I came home reeking of frying oil. My feet were so swollen I had to take my shoes off before I even made it to the hallway rug. And the first thing my son, Brian, said, "Can you keep it down? We're trying to relax." Relax. Like I hadn't been standing for 6 hours straight, serving chicken to teenagers with attitudes, cleaning trays, restocking sauces. Like the pain in my wrists and the burn in my lower back were just background noise to their evening Netflix binge. That was the moment it clicked. They didn't see me anymore. Not as their mother, not as a woman, just background static that they wished would mute itself. I didn't say a word. Just stood there, eyes on the floor I had scrubbed that same morning to get rid of the grape juice stain Ava left behind. I opened my purse. My pay stub was folded neatly inside. It wasn't much. But it was enough. Enough for what I had decided I needed to do. I walked to the sink, rinsed my aching hands, grabbed a cigarette I'd been hiding from the kids, and went to my room. The hallway light was off. I could hear the TV from the living room. Some comedy show. Tanya, my daughter-in-law, loved those talent competitions. Always yelling at the screen like she was the judge herself. I passed their overflowing laundry basket. Their clothes, not mine. I didn't stop. I wasn't folding anything tonight. Not anymore. My room used to be the dining room before they took the bedrooms. Temporary, they said. That was 8 years ago. I remember the day they moved in. Brian had lost his job. Tanya was pregnant with their second. I didn't hesitate. "Of course you'll stay here," I said. "Family sticks together." I packed up my bedroom so the kids could have more space. Gave up the living room TV. Rearranged my shifts to help with the baby. And now I was just a nuisance, with smelly clothes and swollen feet, who disturbed their peace. I opened the drawer where I kept the mail. Pulled out the mortgage documents. Utility bills. Bank statements. Everything, every single thing, was still in my name. Because the house was mine. Paid off with decades of graveyard shifts, overtime hours, burned fingers, and missed birthdays. And somewhere along the line, they forgot that. They started acting like I was the guest. Laughter echoed from the living room again. Brian's laugh. Tanya's too. No one asked if I'd eaten. Not that I had the strength to. My dinner break was a pack of saltines and a leftover wing I hadn't been able to sell. I leaned back on my creaky folding cot, wincing as my spine protested. This was supposed to be their temporary setup. But I was the one sleeping in the dining room. Tanya once told me I should stop dressing like a janitor when I come home. I didn't say anything then either. But the next morning, I spoke in a language no one could ignore. Not with my voice, but with my signature. I remember the first night I gave up my bedroom. Tanya stood in the hallway, hand on her lower back, belly round as a watermelon, complaining that the dining room didn't have enough privacy. So I gave up the one room in the house that was mine, the only space I had left, and they called it adapting. I called it vanishing. I slept on a second-hand fold-out cot we'd picked up off the curb. The mattress had a spring poking out of the side, but I didn't complain. At the time, it felt worth it to help. Ava was 3 and called me Nana J. She'd curl up in my lap and brush my thinning hair with her plastic princess comb. That used to be enough. Back then, I cooked dinner every night. I did laundry. Ran errands. Tanya would nap or go on job interviews that never turned into anything. Brian was always on his phone, applying for remote work, he said. Or playing something on his console. Then came the bills. Electricity. Water. Groceries. Tanya liked name-brand cereal. Brian needed his streaming subscriptions. No one asked if I could afford it. I didn't say I couldn't. I just started picking up extra shifts. First 2 nights a week. Then 4. Then every night but Sunday. I remember that first Christmas. I bought gifts for everyone, nothing fancy, but thoughtful. Tanya didn't get me anything. Not even a thank you. Brian handed me a coffee mug that said #1grandma, we guess, with the price tag still on the bottom. We figured we'd just say it was from all of us, he said, laughing. When their second baby was born, I took 2 weeks off work. I rocked her at 2 a.m. while Tanya slept. Paid for the crib. Diapers. Even the hospital copay. I remember Tanya saying, "It's not like you have anything else to spend your money on." As if my life and savings had no value unless they were being funneled directly into her convenience. And still, I kept going. I started hiding small treats for myself. Peppermint tea. A crossword puzzle book. I kept them tucked behind the hot water heater in the garage. It was the only place they wouldn't dig through. But over time, even that wasn't safe. One night, I came home and found the garage filled with boxes, not mine. Old clothes. Storage bins labeled Brian's stuff. Tanya's wedding dress hanging from a beam, still in its dry cleaning bag. My bookshelf had been dismantled. My photo albums shoved in a milk crate and stacked behind a stroller. And my things? Everything I owned fit in 2 boxes now, one of which was full of letters from Harold, my late husband. This house, he once told me, isn't just walls, Jerry. It's your bones. Never let anyone take it from you. I'd forgotten that. But that night in the garage, I remembered. A few days later, I was folding laundry. Tanya's, not mine. She walked in, phone in hand, glanced at the piles and said, "You folded the towels the wrong way again. I've told you before, fold them like this." She didn't say thank you. She didn't even notice the arthritis cream still on my knuckles. I said nothing. But something cracked quietly inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a silent little snap, like an old thread finally giving out. That evening, I sat on the cot and stared at the ceiling. The laughter from the living room felt like it was coming from someone else's home. And maybe it was. Because this house hadn't felt like mine in years. It felt like a place I was allowed to exist in, as long as I didn't take up too much space. That was the night I didn't set my alarm. Didn't get up early to cook breakfast. Didn't pack the kids' lunches. Didn't clean up their mess in the bathroom. I just slept. And when I woke up, I called a lawyer. I sat on Loretta's porch that Saturday morning, the sun warming my scalp through my thinning hair. She'd been my neighbor for over 20 years, lived just 2 blocks away now. Still brewed her tea like it was a ritual, strong, hot, and with a lemon wedge she never ate. I just needed to get out of the house, I said, clutching a reusable grocery bag I hadn't even unpacked. It was an excuse. I didn't want to go home. Not to a kitchen full of dirty dishes and a family that didn't see me anymore. Loretta raised one eyebrow, the way she always did when she caught me lying to myself. "They're going through a hard time," I said out loud, like a script I'd been reading for 8 years. But the words were hollow now. Even I didn't believe them. 8 years is a long damn time to be struggling, she said, sipping her tea. That's not struggle. That's squatting. I laughed, a short and bitter sound. I just don't want to make a scene. There are kids. They have nowhere else to go. She leaned forward, her eyes sharp and bright. Sweetheart, you think you're protecting them, but really, you're letting them bury you 1 inch at a time. That shut me up. Because I knew, in the deepest part of my tired heart, that she was right. I wasn't helping them anymore. I was enabling them. Feeding them. Housing them. Absorbing their silence and their sighs and their sideways glances like a sponge soaked in shame. I called a lawyer, I whispered. Loretta didn't flinch. She just nodded. You didn't evict them. Not yet. You just asked a question. You're allowed to ask questions about your own home. I didn't answer. I just stared at her white wicker table, the bowl of grapes between us. Everything in her house still belonged to her. Her rhythm. Her rules. Her quiet. I missed that. When I got home, the kitchen looked like a toddler had hosted a frat party. Pancake batter splattered across the counter. Juice boxes half smashed on the floor. My mixing bowl, the one from the 70s with the floral print, was filled with a sticky mess of flour and syrup. A note on the fridge read, "Mom, can you clean this before Ava's friends come tomorrow? THX. No, please. No name. Just another order." I stood there holding my grocery bags. My shoulders ached, not just from the weight, but from years of quiet compliance. I went to my room. Sat on my cot. No one knocked. No one asked where I'd been. No one noticed I was even home. I remembered something Harold once told me, back when I was pregnant with Brian and scrubbing bathroom tiles because we couldn't afford a cleaner. He took the sponge from my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, "This house isn't just walls, Jerry. It's your bones. Don't you ever let anyone take it from you." Somehow, I'd forgotten. Until now. The next morning, I met with Mr. Lavin, a quiet, balding man with soft eyes and a steady voice. He offered me coffee. I declined. "I need to know how to protect myself," I said, placing the papers on his desk, mortgage statements, utility bills, all with my name. He looked through them carefully, then said, "You're the sole legal owner. You have every right to ask them to leave. And if they refuse? Then we begin formal eviction proceedings. It'll take time, 30 days notice, some paperwork, but it's possible. And I'll handle it." I sat with my purse clutched in my lap like a life preserver. "I'm not doing this out of anger," I whispered. Mr. Lavin smiled kindly. "Most people aren't. Most people do this because they've been pushed too far for too long." He handed me a folder, options, steps, and timelines printed in clean, clinical typeface. I took it home. Slid it under my pillow. And that night, for the first time in years, I slept without a tightness in my chest. The envelope was cream-colored, heavy, and precise. Not a single smudge or wrinkle. I slid it into the mailbox with shaking hands and stood there, staring at the little red flag rising up like a silent alarm. Inside that envelope were the words I could never say out loud, not without being called dramatic, heartless, or bitter. So I let the lawyer say them for me. This letter constitutes formal notice of eviction. The current occupants have 30 days to vacate the premises or face legal proceedings. Short. Legal. Cold. I'd written a dozen versions myself before handing it off to Mr. Lavin. But mine were always too soft. Too sorry. His version didn't apologize. And maybe, finally, I didn't need to either. I went back inside. The house smelled like something burnt in the oven. I didn't bother to investigate. Ava was watching a tablet on full volume. Derek, the little one, had drawn all over the wall with a marker, again. I glanced at the stain, then at the carpet covered in cereal, and felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No urge to clean it up. Just silence. And for once, that silence felt like mine. They found the letter that afternoon. I was folding towels in the garage when I heard it, a door slam, then Tanya's voice slicing through the walls like a rusty knife. "What the hell is this?" I didn't answer right away. Just finished folding one more towel, corner to corner. Pressed the crease. Stacked it neatly. Then walked inside. Brian stood in the hallway with the letter in his hand, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Tanya was already yelling. "You're kicking us out? What kind of mother does this? We're your family. The kids live here. You can't just, this is illegal, right? This has to be illegal." I looked at Brian. He didn't defend me. He didn't even look angry. He just looked tired and cornered. "You're serious?" he asked. I nodded. "I gave you 8 years, I said quietly. I gave you my bedroom, my savings, my time, my peace. And not once did either of you ask if I was okay." Tanya rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. You offered. No one forced you to do anything." "No," I agreed. "But I'm unoffering now. They threatened to call a lawyer. I gave them Mr. Lavin's card. They accused me of betrayal. I said nothing. They asked where they were supposed to go. I shrugged. You've got 30 days to figure it out." And then, I went to my room, lit a peppermint candle, opened a puzzle book. And for the first time in almost a decade, I heard something in the house I hadn't heard in years. Them walking on eggshells. Not me. The first week after the letter, they walked around the house like strangers. Not to each other, to me. Tanya stopped dropping wet towels on the floor. Ava suddenly remembered how to say thank you. Even Brian, my son, my firstborn, started asking, "How are you feeling, Mom?" Like it was a performance he hadn't rehearsed since 2009. But I wasn't being cruel. I just wasn't being convenient anymore. I stopped cooking for the whole house. No more 3-pan dinners, just a quiet little omelet for one. I stopped doing their laundry. Only mine. Folded slowly, with care. Like it mattered again. At night, Tanya slammed cabinets. Not out of anger, out of panic. The kids cried more. She didn't know how to soothe them without my voice, my arms, my rituals. And Brian, he stood outside my bedroom door sometimes, just breathing, like he wanted to knock, but never did. And every day, I became less of the help and more of the homeowner. On day 12, I got a letter. From Tanya. Yes, the same woman who hadn't thanked me once in 8 years. "We're asking you to reconsider. This is our home too. We're willing to pay rent now. We can draw up an agreement." It wasn't an apology. It was fear in a business envelope. I didn't respond. Because I already had a plan. On day 19, I started packing my things. Yes, my things. Because I was leaving too. But not how they thought. Through the kitchen window, I saw Tanya pacing while on the phone. Brian sat with the kids, watching them scream like it was the first time he'd ever really heard them. On day 22, I sold the old china cabinet online. The one Tanya used to call outdated and never let me touch. A young couple came to pick it up. Offered more than I asked. For our first apartment, they said. "It just feels like home." "It used to be," I replied. And smiled. On day 25, I opened a new bank account. Transferred everything I had. After years of giving, draining, emptying, I was back in control of my own name. On day 28, I left a note for Brian. "Do you remember your Lego lighthouse? How we built it together, piece by piece. I always hoped you'd grow up to build things, not tear them down. You still have that chance. But not here. Here, I'm building again. For me." On day 30, the house was quiet. They were gone. No goodbye. No tears. No slammed doors. Just silence. I didn't cry. Didn't celebrate either. I peeled off the couch covers. Opened the windows. Put on the kettle. And sat in my old chair by the window, the one nobody else liked. Then I whispered to no one. "I'm home." It took me 3 days to adjust to the quiet. Not because it was unfamiliar, but because it felt earned. No toys scattered under the couch. No greasy fingerprints on the fridge. No tantrums behind closed doors. Just the hum of the fridge, the tick of the clock, and the occasional creak of old wood, like the house itself was exhaling after years of holding its breath. I started moving room by room. Not to clean, to reclaim. I put my sewing machine back in the dining room. Hung my mother's painting in the hallway where Tanya used to roll her eyes at it. Found Harold's toolbox in the garage, untouched, and placed it by the back door like a silent anchor. Even bought myself new slippers, fluffy, ridiculous ones, because no one was going to call them ugly now. I liked the way things looked when they were just mine. A week later, I went to KFC. It wasn't a grand plan. Just a craving. I sat at the corner booth, the one near the window, with a 2-piece meal and a biscuit. Across from me, a teenage couple giggled over a shared milkshake. A man read the newspaper. A little girl dipped fries in mashed potatoes like it was the most normal thing in the world. And me? I just sat. Peacefully. Alone, but not lonely. The girl behind the counter came over when my tray was empty. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said, "do you come here often?" "Not for a long time," I smiled. "But I used to." "Well," she said, "you make this place feel warm. Like a regular." I almost laughed. That's all I ever wanted to be. Just a regular person in my own life. When I got home that evening, there was a letter in the mailbox. From Brian. "Mom, I don't know how to fix everything I've done. But I'm trying. Tanya and I are not together anymore. I found a job. It's not much, but it's mine. I hope, one day, you'll let me visit. Not to stay. Just to talk. Just to be your son again." I read it twice. Then placed it in a box marked keep. Not forgive. Not forget. Just keep. Because healing doesn't have to mean reopening the door. The next morning, I watered my plants. Made breakfast for one. Turned on the radio and danced barefoot in the kitchen, not well, but free. And when I passed by the hallway mirror, I caught my reflection and paused. There she was. The woman who once disappeared under other people's needs. Now returned. Wrinkled, yes, but real. Rooted. Home. I didn't smile at her. I nodded. Like an old friend, finally back where she belongs. This house once held many voices. Children's laughter, not happiness, but noise. Women's commands, spoken like gratitude, but masks for contempt. Men's silence, not peace, but the absence of choice. For years, I lived in the echo of others' desires. I silenced my dreams because I believed being a good mother meant sacrificing myself. I allowed myself to be tired because I thought it was normal to give until there was nothing left. I stayed silent because I believed dignity meant quietness. But dignity is not silence. It is action. Without shouting, without bitterness. With a straight back. For the first time in years, I went for a walk without bags. No lists. No need to rush home because everyone is waiting. No one was waiting. And it was a blessing. I sat on a bench by the lake where I once walked with Brian, when he still held my hand like a child trusting. He's no longer that boy. But I am still the same woman. Only stronger. People asked me, "Why didn't you break?" I didn't break because I was used to holding my back straight even under the weight of silent burdens. Because a heart that beats quietly still lives. Because those who see your kindness as weakness don't know that kindness is a choice. And I no longer choose to endure. Now my house has empty rooms that don't scream. An empty kettle boiling only for me. A table where I can read, write, be silent, and in this, there is life, not loss. Sometimes I dream I'm standing in the kitchen again, hearing the phrase, "Can you be quieter? We're trying to relax." But in that dream, I don't stay silent. I look straight into the eyes and say, "Now it's my turn to relax. This is not revenge. This is not anger. This is freedom." They left, leaving behind emptiness. And I stayed, to fill it with myself. I didn't become harder. I became whole. I didn't become cold. I became calm. And if one day the doors of my home open again, it will only be for someone who is not afraid of my silence. Someone who doesn't want to break it, but simply to sit beside me, with respect. Because now I know. The loudest thing a woman can do, is to leave quietly. And stay strong. With herself. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to me and helps me create even better videos for you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Raising hands.